I also want to bring in Democratic Senator Peter Welch of Vermont, who just voted no on this bill. As we just heard from Tim Miller, a senator, this bill did seem like it was on the cusp of potentially being defeated. Lisa Murkowski, again, as Tim just pointed out, had a chance to be what John McCain was for Obamacare, defy his party and vote yes. What do you make of what we just saw on the floor of the House, of the Senate?
Well, obviously very disappointing for us. I mean, this is a very significant turning point. I mean, number one, we're adding $3.5 trillion to the deficit. Number two, the reason we're adding that is to pay for tax cuts, not to invest in anything. Number three, our healthcare system in this country is too expensive, very fragile. We've just weakened it dramatically, not just folks, the 17 million who lose their access to Medicaid, but our community hospitals. Number four, utility bills are going to go up. Killing these energy projects means that the wind and solar that's provided 95% of the new generation that folks like Walmart need done. And then the nutrition programs is going to inflict hardship, whether you're in a red state or a blue state. If you're not getting the nutrition program, it's going to hurt our kids, our seniors, and veterans. So this is a triumph for the Trump philosophy of tax cuts for the very wealthy and the Trump philosophy of essentially having the federal government turn its back in a very significant way on things that everyday Americans need to live an affordable life.
For the average American, they know what Donald Trump can and has done to people who defy him. On the other hand, they also understand that they do have some power at the ballot box. And the polls have been consistent and they have been clear that the American people oppose what is in this bill, that they think it could be dangerous. They think it can hurt their everyday lives. You told Vermont Public Radio last week, I was just reading this, that your goal had been over the last several weeks to persuade some of your Republican colleagues to oppose this bill. Can you help pull back the curtain and help us understand why you think they made a decision, especially in red states that will be extremely hit hard by the possible closing of rural hospitals? What were the conversations you had that helped you to understand why they would vote the way they did?
Well, you know, I'll quote Lisa Murkowski, a senator that was the critical vote, a senator who I greatly respect. But she said that the senators are afraid of Trump. There's an enormous amount of political blowback. And each of us, particularly on the Republican side, they had to make a decision whether they were going to go with Trump or go with their constituents, because it is absolutely the case that all of the bad things that are going to happen in Vermont with Medicaid, with community hospitals, with energy projects, with nutrition, those are going to happen in the red states as well. Now, what happened, of course, is that there were enormous payoffs to benefit Alaska. And as the press reviews the bill, we'll see exactly what those are. But that fear factor obviously played a very major role, I think, for many of my colleagues. And a number of those colleagues are for all the tax cuts and they're against Medicaid. But I do think the Trump factor was really persuasive because this does bipartisan harm across the land.
I was looking at a poll from just Vermont. 67% of Vermont residents wanted Congress to block this, what Trump calls the big, beautiful bill. But I thought the more striking number was that 69% of independents were against that. Did you have that conversation as well? I understand that you're afraid of the blowback from President Trump, but what about from your constituents?
Well, I did. No, that is exactly what I did. In fact, all of us adopted different states. So, for instance, I was constantly speaking about West Virginia and giving the statistics about how many people in that very poor state, very rural state, would lose health care, would lose access to nutrition programs. And I'd make my point, and my colleagues obviously all have to make their decision. But what I was arguing to my colleagues is that whatever it is you think about Trump and the politics of this, you have to acknowledge that there's a real impact on your community hospitals, on folks on Medicaid, and on these nutrition programs. That's real, and you know, each senator makes their own vote. But when you look at what is going to happen to people who are on Medicaid, whatever state they're in, it's really bad. And that includes, by the way, like our seniors, 2 out of 3 seniors who are in nursing homes, that's paid for by Medicaid. Our kids who are disabled and the parents who so love those kids, they absolutely have to have Medicaid. We're taking it away. So it's an astonishing legislative act that was just passed with the tie-breaking vote coming from the vice president.
Arguably, Senator, to give credit where credit is due, the big argument from the president and from Republicans is that this bill was about national security, that you have to make choices, and they chose border security. They also chose what they said was military security. The president has made a lot of what happened in Iran. He believes that he stopped a war there. Whatever your belief in the realities are, let me ask you about this reality. Do you think those arguments will win the day in the House? Do you see any indications? I know this isn't your side of the aisle, but do you see any indications that there could be some changes in your mind for the better, or that the House could reject this in a more significant way?
The bill can't be improved, in my view, but there's going to be real contention in the House. You've got budget hawks over there who are astonished that this is adding $3.5 trillion. In the bill the House sent over to the Senate made worse on the deficit. That's one. Number two, you have some moderates over there who are deeply concerned about these Medicaid cuts. The Senate bill made the House bill worse. You know, on the border, we are in agreement that we have to have a secure border and that criminals should be deported. What's ironic about this is Trump actually won that argument, but after the fact, we're putting billions of dollars into these detention centers, and it's all because Trump is going that next step too far, where he's rounding up people at work sites and going after people who are not criminals and who are actually working on our farms, working in our construction industry, and not doing anything about getting some kind of status to help us on the economy.
Senator Peter Welch, thank you so much. It's always good to see you, sir.